It began like any other Monday morning. Students filled the halls of Abundant Life Christian School, backpacks slung over shoulders, laughter echoing, teachers preparing for the day ahead. In those moments, no one could have imagined that their lives were about to change forever. Among them was 15-year-old Natalie Rupnow, a girl known by some, but truly understood by few. That morning, she walked into her school carrying not just a backpack, but the weight of choices that would leave an entire community forever changed. Families shattered. Futures stolen. And the lingering question, why? What brings a teenager to a point of no return? This is not just a story of tragedy, it's a plea to understand the fractures in our society, in our homes, and in ourselves. December 16, 2024, a date that will forever weigh heavy on Madison, Wisconsin. On that morning, 15-year-old Natalie Rupnow, a student at Abundant Life Christian School, walked into her classroom and opened fire. By the time the chaos ended, 2 people had lost their lives, a teacher and a fellow student. 6 more were wounded, 2 critically. Natalie's life also came to an end that day by her own hand. In the aftermath, a quiet community was left with grief, shock, and a pressing need to understand what led to this horrific event. As police sift through evidence, as families mourn, and as a nation watches, one question remains: why did it happen? Madison, Wisconsin, is a city known for its tight-knit communities and quiet neighborhoods, a place where families grow together and life feels safe. For years, Abundant Life Christian School stood as a symbol of stability, its halls filled with the laughter and promise of children eager to learn. Among those students was 15-year-old Natalie Rupnow. She was often described as quiet, reserved, and someone who never seemed to draw attention to herself. But Natalie's story is more complex than it appears. Born and raised in Madison, her early life was anything but steady. Court records reveal a turbulent childhood, marked by her parents' divorce and repeated custody battles that forced Natalie to bounce between homes. Therapy sessions and counseling became part of her routine, not as a choice, but as a necessity in navigating the fractures of her young life. Her classmates saw a girl who often kept to herself, a face in the crowd rather than a leader among peers. Teachers noted her occasional struggles to stay engaged, chalking it up to the challenges every teenager faces. But what they couldn't see, what perhaps no one could see, was the growing storm beneath the surface. Behind the quiet demeanor was a girl grappling with pain, isolation, and questions no one around her could answer. It's a story we've heard before, but each time it unfolds, it feels just as devastating and unexplainable as the last. December 16th began like any other school day. Students filed into Abundant Life Christian School, greeted by the familiar sounds of lockers slamming and teachers calling for quiet. But just before 11 a.m., everything changed. Natalie Rupnow entered a classroom during study hall, carrying a handgun. Within moments, the sound of gunfire shattered the stillness. Panic spread as students and teachers scrambled for cover. By the time the chaos subsided, 2 lives had been lost, a teacher and a fellow student. 6 others were injured, 2 critically. And Natalie, the girl who walked in with that weapon, was found dead from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. Police arrived within minutes, securing the scene and evacuating students. Emergency responders worked frantically to save the injured while terrified parents gathered outside, waiting for answers. But for many, the answers they received were ones they could never have imagined. A day that began with routine and promise ended in devastation, leaving a community forever changed. Now, investigators are racing against time to piece together how and why this happened. The aftermath of the shooting was marked by heartbreak and disbelief. Families of the victims gathered outside the school, clinging to one another for comfort. Inside, investigators began their work, sifting through shattered glass, discarded backpacks, and the echoes of trauma left behind. The Madison community responded with an outpouring of grief. Vigils were held outside the school, with candles and flowers placed near the entrance. Parents spoke of their fears, students shared their shock, and teachers reflected on the colleagues and children they had lost. Online, tributes poured in. Social media became a platform for mourning, with friends sharing memories of those who had died and others questioning how something so tragic could happen here. Meanwhile, investigators turned their attention to Natalie. They uncovered a document circulating online, allegedly tied to her. Detectives are working to verify its authenticity, hoping it may offer some insight into her state of mind. They're also combing through her social media accounts, looking for patterns, signs, or messages that could explain what drove her to this act of violence. The weight of the answers they find will be felt not just in Madison but across a nation still struggling to make sense of such tragedies. The pain of this tragedy is felt far beyond the walls of Abundant Life Christian School. It's a moment that calls us to reflect, to ask the hard questions, and to search for ways to ensure no other community has to endure this kind of heartbreak. As we continue exploring the life of Natalie Rupnow and the events that led to this devastating day, take a moment to engage with this conversation. Like this video, subscribe to the channel for more stories that seek to uncover the truth, and share your thoughts in the comments. What do you believe are the key steps we must take to prevent such tragedies? Your voice matters, and together, we can strive for change. As investigators piece together the events of December 16th, one central question looms over this tragedy: how did it come to this? A 15-year-old girl, armed with a handgun, stepped into a place meant to foster growth and safety, and left it shattered. The answers seem just out of reach, tangled in layers of missed signs, systemic issues, and the complexities of one young girl's life. Police are tracing the handgun used in the shooting, working to understand how a weapon intended for controlled use ended up in Natalie Rupnow's hands. Was it acquired illegally, or did gaps in accountability lead to its possession by someone so young? A simple Facebook post from earlier this year shows Natalie at a shooting range with her father, smiling, participating in what many see as a rite of passage. But somewhere between that photo and the events of that December morning, something shifted. Something broke. Her history points to a childhood marked by instability, a life split between homes, custody agreements that uprooted her every few days, and therapy sessions meant to ease the cracks forming beneath the surface. Was this enough to explain her actions? Or were there deeper currents at play, pressures of adolescence, struggles with identity, or feelings of isolation that no one noticed until it was too late? Then there's the digital trail. Investigators are combing through Natalie's online activity, looking for clues that might explain her state of mind. A document shared on social media, allegedly tied to her, hints at grievances or struggles she may have carried. But what is real, and what is the projection of a collective search for meaning in something so incomprehensible? The police chief has urged caution, warning against speculation, as the truth may be far more complicated than any document or post can reveal. Beyond the immediate questions about Natalie Rupnow's actions lies a broader issue. What does this tragedy tell us about the cracks in our systems, about access to firearms, the fragility of mental health resources, and the unspoken struggles of our youth? Protests have erupted in Madison and across the country, with parents and advocates calling for tighter gun laws and better support systems. But no protest or investigation can bring back the lives lost that day. A teacher who dedicated their life to shaping young minds. A student with dreams yet unrealized. And a girl, just 15 years old, who became the source of so much pain. As a community searches for answers, the rest of us are left with an undeniable truth: there is no single cause for this tragedy, but perhaps there is a way forward, if we are willing to face the uncomfortable questions it raises. At Abundant Life Christian School, the days ahead will be filled with silence, a silence that speaks louder than words. It's the silence of classrooms missing a teacher's voice, of a desk left empty, and of a community trying to reconcile what can never be fully understood. Across Madison, the glow of candlelight flickers in the night, held by hands trembling with grief and resolve. Natalie Rupnow's name will forever be tied to this tragedy, but her story is part of something larger, an urgent call to confront the vulnerabilities in our society. It's a reflection of fractured systems that fail to protect, of the hidden struggles that go unnoticed, and of the moments when intervention might have made all the difference. As the flowers wilt and the news cycle moves on, one truth remains: if we don't ask the hard questions and seek meaningful solutions, we risk seeing this pain repeated. What will we choose to do differently? How do we honor the lives lost, not just with words, but with action? Let us know in the comments below. What do you believe is the most important step to prevent tragedies like this? Your thoughts could be part of the change we all need. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and join us as we continue to explore the stories that shape our world, and the questions that challenge us to do better.